The tired roof of her home towered over Rarity as she trotted towards it in the deepening twilight. The windows stood like thin sheets of brittle ice, pressed on one side on the side of the bitter chill of the night air, and on the other in absolute darkness. The treacherous void looked so thick, Rarity could imagine it breaking it through the fragile panes and pouring out onto the street to engulf and drown her before she even had the set of hooves on the doorstep. She paused with her hoof on the latch, her breath coming in fast as little shivers as she tried not to think about the things she had seen and learned. Despite her best efforts, she had been unable to find anything on obscured magic in the library. Either she didn't know where to look for it, or the small town library never needed to stock anything so historic. Miss Dog-Ear would have known. Now Rarity was returning to her home, where everything had begun to fall apart, almost as unarmed and ununiformed as she had been when she first entered it. She was afraid that when the door opened, she could see that the mirrors had somehow been uncovered and would be staring out at her like the bright, empty eyes Tularula had filled her paintings with. She afraid her ponyquins would have moved again, lined up to face her like a friendly-ish macabre jury. But most of all, she was afraid something would happen to her that she hadn't yet imagined while she was alone in the darkness of what had once been the Rula Art Gallery. I could go to my parents, she thought, standing there in the soft winter air. I don't have to stay here. It's not safe and it's not healthy. But the thought of running away to her parents' home, the place she had returned from when she failed to find work after graduation, and again she had failed to impress anyone in Manhattan, felt like it was most unthinkable of surrender. How long am I going to keep running someplace safe and comfortable? She knew it was absurd, but she had felt obligated to treat the strange powers that had awoken in her new home like nothing more than another trial that brought her she needed to overcome. It was the only way she had ever known to prove that she had what it took to bring her visions and her dreams to reality. A lady has strength, she thought grimly. A proper lady doesn't just take whatever gets thrown at her. I'm going to turn this around and make it into something extraordinary. Just you wait and see what I can do. The latch rattled and the hinges gave their characteristic groan as she pushed her front door open. The waning gray light from the outside spread across the floor in front of her, then vanished as she shut the door and the clear air out. She stood there breathing steadily through her slightly parted lips. All the mirrors were covered and her dress forms were precisely where she had left them. Even the one in the still wore the black dress that she had made the previous day, where she had left them. Even that the one she still wore the black dress she had still made the previous day. She approached it and scrutinized the dress with a skeptical eye. There was still something not quite perfect about it. She sniffed, removed the poem from the ponyquin, and hanged it up on one of the empty racks along the wall. Perhaps I'll make another one tomorrow, she thought. See if that doesn't turn out better. She turned around and took a long, sweeping look at the showroom. It felt strangely empty, even emptier than when Minnie had first showed it to her. What had happened to you here? She said softly. Her voice diffused and fell silent in the air. Not even the faintest whisper of an echo came back to her in answer. Wearily, she crossed the arm and went upstairs to get ready for bed. As she prepared herself to sleep that night, the silence was so clean that the total it was almost seemed sacred. Her stepped lightly and shut drawers gently, and even the soft bounce betrayed those actions felt like a scourge. From the moment she had entered the house, she had been intruding in a sanctuary forgotten by time, a place where something had sealed itself up and forgotten by the world. As she locked her bedroom door and tucked herself into bed, she looked around the room with the wide staring eyes. She felt for the first time since moving in that she felt presumptuous to break the spell that laid over the gallery for decades. It hadn't been hers to remake. It could have been for anyone else's. And now she was daring to sleep one more night in a stranger's home, unwanted and uninvited. "That's not right, though," she whispered into the emptiness. "This is mine now. It shouldn't be left to rot. Whatever went wrong, that's in the past, and I can't change that. It shouldn't matter anymore." Her words felt small and feeble. As her sleep finally claimed her, she knew she didn't believe them herself. A thin hiss filled the air as Rarity trotted over to the gramophone. With a deft flicker of power, she turned the record over and set it back onto the turntable. She bent down, watching the glistening spike of the needle intensively as she lowered it and carefully into the thin lip of Vanley. The static played for a few moments more. Then the hollow strains of the Hildebrandine Sympathy started to scratch their way out of the black and gold horn. Rarity had maintained a tense of alertness for 2 days. She had worked at a fast pace, trying to get back in the place where she might have had the chance of a grand reopening in the spring. She had managed to work out 6 design concepts and even patterned 4 of them out, but she was reluctant to move any of them to the mock-up phase. Instead, she kept taking out the black dress, only to put it away with the same amount of confusion and discouragement. When she had the first looked at, she had tried putting in different ponyquins and even tried modeling it herself. But the only thing she could feel while looking at it was a strange detached sort of melancholy. She would have been content to give it up as a bad design, but she couldn't shake the apprehension that if she tried to make another, it would suffer from the same mysterious flaw, and so would the next, and so on, until she burned through all the materials that she had purchased to bring her shop to full stock by opening day. That was how she found herself with the hooves laid idly on the table, staring at the motionless sewing machine. She was unwilling to proceed and driven nearly mad by the necessity to do so. "Come on, Rarity," she fought. "You got to create. You're never going to figure out what's blocking you until you do." But all she did was stand and stare, her hind hoof placed well away from the machine's pedal. Finally, she stepped down and sighed with disappointment. She still hadn't uncovered the mirrors. Her shroud still hung around the room, clashing against the uniform's colors of the showroom. "How am I ever supposed to create any stock like this?" she wondered, walking to one of the front windows and looking out. "There's only a few months left. Worse still, there is only a few weeks left until the Canterlot Historical Society will start to wonder when they're going to get their money. They would probably send Fine Line back down to explain in murderlessly laborious detail on how their speculations were outlined and how Rarity was failing to meet them. She even hadn't heard from Minnie about other options to get her out of the financial mess either. The brief ray of hope she had found 2 days ago was fading fast, swallowed by the unbroken winter clouds. 2 ponies walked down the street into Rarity's view, and she was surprised to recognize her parents. They approached her at the shop. Her father was pointing and saying something, much to her mother only shrugged in response. As they turned and stared towards the front door, Rarity left the window and opened the door to greet them. "Hello, sweetheart," her mother said, and Rarity noted she was speaking a little softer than usual. "Are you feeling a bit better today? You certainly looked more rested." "Yes, thank you," Rarity said, hugging her father. "I'm a little creatively blocked at the moment, but other than that, I'm sure you'll get through that," her father said. "Good to see you, kiddo." "We're just on our way to the sale," her mother explained, smiling excitedly. "Poor Miss Cake. They told me they were a little behind for some reason, so I offered to head over early and pitch in with the baking. Are you still okay to watch Sweetie Belle today?" "Watch Sweetie Belle?" Rarity asked, puzzled and slightly alarmed as her mother turned and started unbuckling her full carrier. Rarity noticed Sweetie Belle inside for the first time, wrapped snugly in a pink blanket and sound asleep. "You remember, don't you?" her mother said, pushing past the sleeping bundle of the bulky bag into Rarity's fumbling hooves. "I came by last week and you told me you'd watch her for me." "I did? I mean, of course, Rarity said, sifting through her jumbled memories confusedly. And what was mentioned? Did she faintly remember her mother asking about the day Fluttershy made her disastrous visit? For how long, you say?" "Oh, just till the cakes close up shop at the end of the day," her mother said happily, stepping back. "And I really need to get over there, so you two have fun today, okay?" Sure," Rarity said, looking down at her sleeping sister and grimacing slightly. "Perhaps if I'm lucky, she won't wake up while she's here." "Take care, Marshmallow," her father said, musing her mane a little and smiling. She then turned to leave, and another thought struck Rarity. "Wait, Mother," she called, and Cookie turned and looked at her quizzically. "Since you're heading over there, you probably ought to know. I had a bit of an altercation with a good friend of theirs who was staying with them recently. If the matter comes up, would you please give away my apologies to the cakes?" "I suppose," her mother said, looking at Rarity with fresh concern. "Is everything all right, sweetheart?" "It'll be fine," Rarity promised. "Just a few unresolved things I need to soon tie up. That's all." "All right, we'll see you then, sweetheart. Bye-bye, little sweetie. You be good for Rarity." Her parents turned around and trotted off, and Rarity took Sweetie Belle inside and out of the cold. In the background, the symphony continued to play uninterrupted. Sweetie Belle scrunched her little face in her sleep, mumbling something incoherent as she tried to pull herself further into the blankets. Fortunately, however, she didn't wake. Rarity looked down at her at the sleeping sister, realizing with some chagrin that, of course, she didn't have a crib or a pin to put her sister in while she worked. "Well, that's just wonderful," she groused. "Just what am I going to do with you?" She glanced around and spotted the couch, and dragged it over near the sewing table with her magic. Settling her sister in the corner of it, she dropped a few cushions around her and left the bag on the floor to the side. Sweetie hadn't proven to be an emperor yet, and unlike her older sister, her magic was turning out to be very slow in developing, a real blessing for any parent of a unicorn. "You just nap here, and I'll keep working over there, and we'll have a nice quiet day. How about that?" Rarity whispered, stepping quietly away and heading back to the table. There was no way Aunt Tartarus she would dare to use her sewing machine and now risk waking up Sweetie Belle. But since she was hung up on that part anyway, she decided she might as well spend the day literally back at the drawing board. The sound of cloth shifting froze Rarity in her tracks. Her right ear twitched frantically behind the quiet strains of mad music. She heard the faintest sound of fabric rustling before falling silent. "Sweetie Belle?" she whispered, glancing back at her sister lay unmoving in her sleep. She probably just shifted to get more comfortable. Behind her, Rarity heard it, the distinct and feathery rustle of heavy fabric moving. She whirled around just in time to see a single fold on the cloth covering the center das mirror sway ever so slightly before falling still. "Oh, don't you start with this game again today," Rarity hissed. Nothing answered her. Then, as if simply losing hold of its perch, the music mirror's uncovering began to slip, sliding with a faint raspy keen off the frame and had held down to the door. Rarity's magic flared, and the light spell of it pinned on the fabric in place just before it fell off completely. She dragged it back up, expecting it to feel some force resisting her, but nothing hindered as she tucked the back cover into place. "We're not doing this," she said, feeling upskirted as she addressed the empty room. "I will sew those in place if I have to." As if in answer, She heard a latch click loudly somewhere, followed by the slow groan of a door opening. Pulling in a long breath, she walked away from the desk and looked into the kitchen. On the far wall to the door of the basement was open, a few inches of pitch blackness showing around the edges, cracked and thin wood of the panel. A thin wail shattered the quiet as Sweetie Belle woke up and immediately began to cry. Rarity slumped, clenching her teeth against the loud, shrill pitch of that filled in the air. So much for a quiet afternoon. She had turned back on the basement door and trotted over to the couch, picking up her sister and smiling nervously. "Come now, sweetie. What's the matter?" "Shh. It's okay. I'm right here. No need to fuss." Sweetie Belle only screamed louder. Her eyes screwed shut as she struggled and squirmed in her swaddling cloths. "Oh, come now. What's wrong?" Rarity asked. "Are you hungry? I'm sure Mommy left you something. Just let me..." She levitated a lukewarm bottle out of the bag and brought it close to her sister, but Sweetie got a tiny hoof free and knocked it away. "You're not being very helpful," Rarity said exasperatedly as she picked up the bottle back up and trotted over to the sewing table. "Please tell me you don't need changing." She set her sister down in the sewing machine and confirmed with a quick sniff that nothing needed changing. She frowned and reached for the bottle but bumped her hoof against it, the sewing machine instead. She looked up and froze. Her pupils shrank when she drew in the sharp breath and noticed the thin silver point of the needle poised over a few inches from the table's surface. Crimson thread winded its way from the spool in the back down the side of the needle like a thin stream of blood. With a sickening lurch of stomach, Rarity recoiled from the table. "Maybe we should go to the kitchen," Rarity said, chuckling shakily, but as she glanced back, she saw the basement door, still tilted open with that silver darkness peering out. Breathing through the clenched teeth, Rarity reached out and carefully with her magic and felt for the door. It swung closed without resistance, but bounced back as the latch caught against its frame. Rarity fiddled with it, but she could barely see it from across the room. "Blasted earth pony's doors," she growled, rattling and twitching it with a greater ferocity as she knocked at the door against the bed its frame again and again, trying to lift the latch into the small groove and let it fall into place. Finally she released it with a frustrated growl. The door drifted open again, a little wider than it had been before. On second thought, let's stay out here. She reached for the bottle again, and wrapped her hoof around the cool glass and felt a slick firm of condensation that almost made her lose grip. Turning it downward, she guided the soft rubber tip towards her sister's mouth. A few inches away, however, Sweetie Belle swung out her hoof and knocked Rarity's leg aside, continuing to scream and thrash. "Oh, come on," Rarity pleaded. "I can't just imagine what else you want. Just try it, please." She pushed the narrow tip of the bottle to her sister's mouth again, but Sweetie turned her head aside and flailed her legs again. "If you'd take it, you wouldn't be able to cry anymore," Rarity snapped, the edge of frustration in her voice. She caught a slight whiff of something fidget and briefly wondered what had been wrong with her sister needing changing. "Just a few more tries, that's it." She angled the point of the bottle to her sister's mouth and gently used her magic to enfold her sister's squirming legs. She didn't grip them, but pushed them just enough force to help Sweetie Belle stay for just a few moments. Sweetie cried louder, almost drowning out the music that was being spun out in the room by the gramophone's carousel, swung evenly around and around. Rarity pushed the bottle down, the tip almost grazing Sweetie Belle's open lips. Sweetie Belle pushed through Rarity's magic and swung the bottle, punching it on the tip and knocking it out of Rarity's grip again. It fell to the table with the incourageous metallic clink, but Rarity barely noticed. Sweetie Belle's crying had changed its tone and taken out of an urgent firm howling as she rolled back slightly back and forth. For the moment, Rarity just stood there in confusion, and then her mouth fell open as she saw tiny specks of red on the underside of Sweetie's hoof. The droplet of blood bloomed and collapsed over the thin trickle started to run towards her ankle. Rarity gasped and snapped her gaze at the bottle. It stood upright and untouched beside the sewing machine. What she noticed next made her stomach clench painfully in horror. The needle of the sewing machine had been detached and now lay on the table next to Sweetie Belle, a long tangled line of thread trailing away from it back to the machine. Rarity's mouth worked soundlessly for a moment. Her eyes flicked between the bottle, the needle, and Sweetie Belle several times. Then she grabbed Sweetie Belle and ran to the door of the shop. "I don't care what in the hay you say to me," she yelled, "but you're not going to hurt my sister!" She snatched up Minnie's coat from where it had laid in the window, flung open the door, and bolted into the cold light of the winter morning. Rarity's mind was blank as she sat on her favorite bench in the park, holding Sweetie Belle tight and rocking her gently. She had cleaned the tiny hoof with a handkerchief that she had found in one of the coat's pockets, and all the traces of the small wound were nearly gone. Sweetie Belle had fallen asleep, and she was smiling a little as she breathed softly. "I'm so sorry, sweetie," Rarity said shakily. "I never meant to hurt you. I could never think of hurting you. That wasn't me." "What is?" asked herself. A moment later, her eyes glazing over as she thought back for the past several weeks. Her feelings had become a jumble, like a colossal heap of discarded linens, and any attempt she was made to fully understand the muddled mess only seemed to pull her and entrap her further. A flimsy haze was enveloping everything. As she sat there, looking at the frozen park and the empty trees, a landscape scrapped, raw, and monochrome by the winter, she questioned whether she could be trusted to understand where she was or what she was doing. Try as she might, she hadn't persuaded herself to have taken fault for anything that had happened in the past weeks. She had felt angry that her parents had constantly checking up on her and at her friends for harmlessly transgressions. She had never harbored resentment towards Sweetie Belle long before she set a hoof on the old town hall. Rarity was so much older than Sweetie Belle, and how could she be expected to bond with and relate to her? Mother always wanted to be the perfect sisters, but I never seemed to have it in me. I just wanted to, my work. Every emotion, every action she had moved into the old gallery felt familiar, almost natural to her. In hindsight, however, they also seemed amplified to far easier to act on, or perhaps it was just she was losing control. Rarity? Rarity's eyes refocused as she blinked, turned to face the reluctant, high-pitched voice that had addressed her. "Pinkie Pie?" she asked. Sure enough, Pinkie Pie stood a few paces away, wearing bright blue boots, scarf, and a knit hat. She was also rubbing one forehoof with the other nervously as she looked alongside at Rarity. "Hi," she said quietly. I saw you here, and I just wanted to apologize for messing things up with your letter. I really didn't mean to. It's just that if I don't put things in my organizational system, they get mixed up, and I should have done that with your letter instead of trying to remember to deliver it by myself. I'm really sorry. I can understand if you don't want to forgive me, but I just want you to know." "Nonsense, Miss Pie," Rarity said, assuming slightly formal tone as she glanced away. "I'm the one who should apologize. It was the honest mistake. I overreacted. Really, I am not sure it would have changed things to get on that letter on time." She looked up and met Pinkie's clear blue eyes. "She really does have a good sense of color. Those accessories complement her eyes so perfectly. I told Minnie that I didn't want to lose your job. If you want it back, I'll make sure that she takes you on again." "Aw, thanks, Rarity," Pinkie said, smiling and stepping closer. As much as she loved being able to welcome new ponies to Ponyville, I was starting to feel like it really wasn't the best place to use my talents. "Oh well, what brought you back to Ponyville then? Minnie said you were visiting your family." "It was just a short visit to catch up and rethink a few things. I wrote to the Cakes while I was gone, and they said they wanted me to come back to the bakery full time. Something about their productively having grown exponentially or something fancy like that since I've been here." "Oh, that's wonderful," Rarity said, returning the smile. "Do you think you'll enjoy working there more?" Pinkie nodded with a dizzying vigor. Oh, definitely. I've never had this idea to make Sugar Cube Corner more than just a bakery. I wanted to make Ponyville's one-stop shop for every pony celebratory confectionery needs. Only I just need to think of a word that needs that start with C. Because celebratory and confidentially see something or just sounds so perfect. Got any ideas? Not at the top of my head, but I'm glad things are working out for you. Me too, Pinky chirped, then looked at Rarity with the shadow of her earlier nervousness. So are we friends again? If you could forgive me for my outburst, Rarity said, smiling, I think I'd like it very much. Woohoo! Pinky cheered. Sweetie Belle squirmed in her blankets, and Pinky ducked down with a wide-eyed apologetic smile. Oops, sorry. I won't wake her, I promise. That's alright. I'm just watching her while my parents are out for the day. Wouldn't it be easier to do that at home? Well, I suppose ordinarily, but... Rarity glanced at Pinky, then sighed. It's just complicated. Oh, I love complicated things. This one time my sister Maud was writing a paper about the geological implications of varying percentages of... Pinky froze and then glanced at Rarity with an alarmingly expectant expression. Is something still bothering you, Rarity? Like on the day I remembered to give you your letter? Well, Rarity replied, shrinking back a little. Is it that obvious? Sorta. Pinky's intense expression faded until it was replaced with one of sincere concern. Do you want to talk about it? Rarity opened her mouth and then closed it right away and looked again. Thank you. But it's all right, really. I've got time, Pinky pressed. The Kangs aren't actually expecting me back till tomorrow. I came back early to surprise them. But this sounds more important. I'm not even sure how I talk about it, Rarity said, looking down at Sweetie Belle. None of it makes sense to me. Just talk. You let me worry about making sense. Rarity held back a comment about the absurdity of leaving it to Pinky to make sense, and settled for a small laugh. She was about to tell Pinkie Pie not to worry and that everything would be alright later, but her smile faded as Minnie's words came back to her. Don't try and take everything on alone. You've got friends and family all around you. In a town like this, where all each other has, there is at least what we can do is look out for each other. It's my house, Rarity finally stated. She looked into the distance and tried to find something in her memories so she could lay a firm hold on, or something to do with it. I don't think I can explain it without sounding. I don't know. I mean, things haven't gone according to plan for a long time, but when I brought the old gallery, everything seemed to take a real turn for the worse. So it's so dark here, Pinky. I don't mean just because the windows won't let enough light in. It just feels so oppressive inside, like I'm drowning in thin air. I've been having nightmares during the day. Things keep happening. What kind of things? Odd sounds, tricks of the light, that sort of thing, Rarity said slowly. But mostly it's how I feel when I'm there. It's so easy to get angry or frustrated or sad. At least I thought it was a stress, but... She was silent for a while, trying to think of phrasing that might make sense to someone else. The artist who lived here 30 years ago died in there. Did you know that? She killed herself. Pinky's eyes went wide and shook her head. I know so little about her, Rarity continued. I know she had horrific taste in art and that gallery did poorly, but that she and poor Miss Dog-Ear were friends. Maybe more a long time ago. I thought perhaps that some kind of old magic was lingering and causing these strange effects, but Pinky, I can't help but feel that something is connected to what happened back when it was still present here, like an echo or something. Rarity, Pinky gasped. Are you saying that you think you have a... Don't say it, Rarity snapped. For Celestia's sake, don't say that. I'm not quite paranoid. Not yet, anyway. Well, what else do you think it could be happening? I'm not sure, Rarity sighed. I feel that if I could just find more answers about Tulula and this what really happened to her, I might be able to understand whatever is happening a bit more. But the only pony who really knew her during the time is gone. Rarity looked down at Sweetie Belle again, and it felt a sudden chill as another idea occurred to her. Or maybe that's just a dead end of something totally unrelated is happening to me. For all I know, I could be just repeating what Tularula did herself 30 years ago. What kind of sick joke would that be, huh? Like the old town hall is some kind of trap and every pony who stumbles on it gets caught in the same cycle? Pinky was frowning and tapping her chin with her hoof, but her ears were angled attentively at Rarity. You know, she said with a length, there might be another way to figure out what happened back then. You said Tularula was an artist, correct? Rarity nodded. And if she was an artist, that means she probably went to show arts and stuff to try and sell her work and get noticed, right? Rarity raised a puzzled eyebrow, but nodded again. So, Pinky continued, it's totally possible that some pony who studied or worked at the art back then remembers her. Maybe one of them has some idea what happened? It seems like a bit of stretch, Rarity replied skeptically. From what I've gathered, she wasn't very well known. We won't know unless we try, Pinky said. We? Of course, we're friends again, and as long as you're a friend, I'm going to help you get to the bottom of this. If you need some pony to help find a bunch of ponies with old, obscure art knowledge, then I'm your mare. Pinky, that's really quite kind of you. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. Just sit back and let Pinky do her thing. Rarity spent the remainder of the day with Pinky, who treated her to tea and scones at the calf. She offered to take Rarity to Sugar Cube Corner, but with the strong likelihood that Applejack or Fluttershy might attend on the first day of the cake's heartwarming sale, Rarity decided it'd be safer to now keep a low profile. She did, however, meet with her friends that had made on the way back from his bowling match and returned Sweetie Belle to his care. Thanks again for taking care of your sister, Marshmallow, he said as he nuzzled the little foal, who squealed and batted at his mustache in response. We can tell she misses you. Well, she could certainly be a hoofful, Rarity said honestly, but I do miss her too sometimes. I think things are going to settle down here soon, and then we can finally see each other on a normal basis again. Good to hear that, Rarity, he replied, smiling. You know your mother and I are so proud of you. No pony could ever ask for a more determined, hard-working daughter. I know, Dad, Rarity said quietly, her ears folding back a little as she smiled beneath a small blush. I know. After all that was left to go home, her limbs trembled a little as she walked inside, but her heart felt strangely braced by the events of the day. She didn't know what to expect, but whatever it was, she was growing confident that she would face it. But when she had entered, she saw that the all-covered mirrors in the basement door had somehow managed to shut itself. What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Miss Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, please stay pretty.